Welcome to year 2 of the Blazing Musket Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the holidays and are ready for the biggest year of soccer ever, not only here in New England, but of course across the entirety of the United States. I'm your host, Thomas Pinzone. I had a wonderful holiday break, and I am charged up and ready to go for 2026 for all of the soccer. And for those of you that are motorsports fans, all the racing that is to come as well. But we are here to talk about soccer, of course, this week. And I am joined today by none other than the incredibly studious and humble leader of the Blazing Musket, Sam Latoff. And like I said, we are here to kick off 2026, and we're going to preview basically as much as we possibly can over the next hour to make sure that you know all of the things that you have to look forward to for soccer here in the U.S. and New England. And, of course, the best place to get that coverage is nowhere else other than the Blazing Musket itself. So, Sam, question for you now that we are finally here. It is actually 2026, and we have certainly wasted no time as a country breaking this new year in with new news and developments. So how are you? Are you ready for 2026? Is the Blazing Musket ready for 2026?
I mean, there's no other way but to be ready. There's no other action to be but ready. I mean, this is the year of soccer that everyone has been waiting for. Soccer is about to boom. I saw a stat apparently is officially past baseball in popularity. So essentially, the soccer revolution is going to occur. I mean, thank God Venezuela is not in the World Cup, because that would be a even bigger international incident. So I know we'll get to talk about the lovely World Cup. In terms of the Blazing Musket, we're as ready as we can be. Obviously, we're a humble ship. Everybody trying to cover the beautiful game across the region. Got some big plans in store. Should hopefully be announcing those relatively soon. But hopefully the Blazing Musket is ready, and we'll be there for all of our readers, all of our subscribers and listeners to tell you the story of soccer in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, just looking at the rundown here. I mean, I thought last year we had new teams, but this year we've got even more. We've got even more new teams. We've got new leagues. I mean, it's just it's hard to imagine that with the growth of soccer that we've had in the last couple of years, that it's going to be even more so in New England this year, and quite a bit, on the women's side as well. So it looks like some sort of spectator level soccer on the women's side is gonna try and establish itself in New England for the second time, third time. I mean, it's been pretty rough, really, to be honest, right? There used to be a WPSL league based in New England, which at one point, 3/8 of that league was just Boston Breakers reserve teams. That's been gone for a long time. The Breakers themselves, obviously, have been long gone. But now we have, Boston Legacy is back, not where they expected to be, but they are, they're back. They're going to be playing in Gillette Stadium. They're apparently going to be playing in Tidewater as well. They've signed a ton of players. So, I mean, however prepared the Blazing Musket is, it certainly seems like Boston Legacy is ready to go in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, Boston Legacy has really been doing everything great on the field. I think when you look at the front office, you look at the players they've been able to bring in, very talented players. You kind of have a mix of some, American and Mexican talent, from kind of the region, if you will, but then also some great international talent from, places like Brazil and, FC Barcelona. So when you look at what they've been able to do on the field, the coach that they were able to get, Felipe Patau, excuse me, Felipe. And then also to Dome, the GM. Really, everything's been great. But when you look at kind of off the field, obviously White Stadium kind of falling through, the fact that they're going to be playing games at Gillette and at Tidewater. And then you also couple the fact of, the whole name fiasco, outside of, the playing and kind of the talent, things haven't been going well. But when you look at, what they've been able to kind of get together, lots to be excited about for Boston Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the naming stuff, that's all in the past. That's 2025. We're pushing ahead into the future here. But yeah, the Tidewater thing I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, is this really just because Gillette's kind of busy this year, where they've got the World Cup coming in for a certain period of time, Obviously, the Revs and the Patriots will be playing there in the fall. And then, of course, as we know, Gillette is also used as a as a hub for many concerts that bring in 65,000 people, and they've got a period of time where those concerts simply can't happen. So it seems like they're trying to pack an awful lot into Gillette Stadium in 1 year. So is that kind of the reasoning behind this kind of look? We've got to find, and not that Tidewater is a bad venue, but anyone that goes to Tidewater and has a good time might then they've got to find themselves all the way up in Boston in 2027 if they want to continue to follow the team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is Boston legacy, it isn't New England legacy. So it definitely was kind of branding itself as Boston's club. And like you said, Tidewater, it's nothing to trash Tidewater. It's a great stadium, probably the best in, USL or definitely USL championship. So I think the fact that instead of playing at Gillette, you're going to be able to play in a smaller atmosphere should be more conducive to probably superior environment. But like you said, the World Cup definitely played a factor, I believe, in the announcement they mentioned. They want to make sure that players are able to kind of have access to high quality facilities, high quality playing surface. And, Gillette is going to be absolutely packed in terms of events. And, you can't forget Thomas, Revolution 2, baby. Can't forget about the second team. They will
Yeah,
also play at
no, of
Gillette
course,
Stadium.
yeah.
But so yeah,
How could
definitely the
we?
World Cup did play a factor. And ultimately, I think, it's not necessarily a bad thing to play at Tidewater. It's just you're not going to really be able to bring in those fans. I mean, we'll probably talk about the Revolution and their stadium. They're going to, lose some fans going out to Everett. If you think about going to White Stadium from Rhode Island, that's a whole different ball game. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of follow it up. And it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of look to amplify the experience, whether it's at Gillette or it's at Tidewater.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But like you said, look, they seem to have put together a pretty good roster. They've got a very experienced, successful GM head coach combination. So they haven't skimped there, and I think that's the one thing that the one thing that could possibly sell is winning. And we've seen Portland in year one has been able to be pretty successful straight away. Rhode Island FC was obviously very successful straight away as well. So it does actually, or if you even if you look at MLS, San Diego FC. So this like starting from a clean slate, if you get some people in that know what they're doing, I think that creates there's an opportunity there. Whereas I think if you think about more typical American sports expansion teams, it's just forget it. There's just nothing's gonna nothing's gonna happen the first year or 2 years. With soccer, it seems like it's a different situation. So that'll be interesting. When does their season get started? I mean, NWSL hasn't been around here in a while.
Yeah, so I believe the schedule should be coming out, the full schedule relatively shortly. And I believe the home opener, I believe, is in March. I believe it's a double header, if you will. There's a Saturday, a Boston Legacy game, and a Sunday, Revolution. I believe it's their home opener. So, yeah, they get kicked off in March, kind of similar to what MLS is currently under. Obviously, that will change. But yeah, so a couple months away, Boston Legacy will be playing some games.
It's nice. Yeah, yeah. You got a feel for Revs too. They're going to be playing. They're going to be playing Mondays at 9 o'clock in the morning. It seems like with just trying to
Hey, I
trying to
don't feel
find
bad
out.
for Revs too. I feel bad for Josh Nye having to head out there on a random weekday morning. So
Yeah,
appreciate all you do, Josh.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, it can be interesting experience for him for sure. Okay, so we have that to look forward to, and hopefully, hopefully that goes well. Again, the Breakers didn't really leave. That was a bad. The Breakers didn't really leave a great legacy of women that walked into that one. Women's soccer in Boston. For sure, it would be nice to see them come in, establish a fan base, and be successful. But yeah, I mean, look, we'll be covering it, right? Jackie's ready to go. She's on this show a couple times, and we'll be sure to have her back on as the season continues as well to make sure we keep up with all of that. Do we have anybody else that's covering Boston Legacy besides Jackie?
Right now, Jackie is killing it. So right, it's
Yeah,
her. She's also our West Coast U.S. Women's National Team and U.S. Soccer correspondent. So she's going to be covering, I think, her second U.S. Women's National Team at SoFi. Later in the month. So she's been doing a great job so far. So just her. If anyone's listening and is interested in covering Boston Legacy, feel free to reach out. We're always looking to add to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And speaking, continue on here with the women's teams trying to make a comeback here in New England. Can you? Because I've lost track. I was aware of this and then I forgot about it and then became aware of it again. It's been a long winter so far. The Vermont Green, they announced at least an intention to field the women's team in 2026. And from what I remember last night, before I trailed off keeping up with this, it was kind of contingent upon enough other teams in New England also participating to make this whole thing work. Because, like we said, there really hasn't been much in the way of even amateur level women's teams in New England since WPSL, pulled out of these six beautiful states a couple of years ago. So, where is that all at? And are there other New England teams that are actually going to be joining them? And how much of this is actually finalized?
Yeah, so, from everything we're kind of hearing, it sounds like things should be good to go. There's kind of a confidence that that five-team division will be reached. Obviously, Hartford Athletics going to be a part of that. They, I believe, played in a different division in prior years, but will now move to kind of this New England division. And it kind of seems like, the question is who's going to maybe fill in that gap, especially looking at USL League Two. You think of teams who kind of have these academies, whether it's New England NEFC, Seacoast United. So you imagine some of these teams will pick up some of the slack, if you will. And I believe AC Connecticut might also be joining to kind of round it out. But when you look at kind of roster building, Hartford signed their first USLW player recently. So from their end, it's all good. They have Danny Barrera, former player, as head coach. So all signs seem to be pointing that everything should be going as planned. Obviously, things can fall apart, but it seems like Vermont should be playing USLW soccer, which is great. For the state, great for the women's game. Again, I think a common theme from our discussion will just be kind of the infrastructure and growth of the game. The fact that you have this pathway to play in USLW for some of the college players to continue to develop their game is really important. So, looking forward to USLW. Looking forward to having another reason to head up to Burlington, Vermont to see some more Vermont Green games.
Yeah, I mean that's the one part of this whole thing that no one really has to have any concern about, right? Is that if Vermont does put a team on the field, for sure they'll have no problem getting players because they've been able to put teams together for friendlies the last couple of years. They'll have no problem selling tickets either, right? I mean, they have the opposite problem. Right? I mean, they could sell, for not just for the men's games, but the women's games sell out very quickly as well. So it seems like they're in a good position to do something similar to what the men's team has done, which is one of the best attended teams, all across USL League Two. And when you talk about that, you're talking about I think it's close to 100 teams, and so yeah, so that'll be good. And again, hopefully it works out. Hopefully it comes together here where they've got these five teams that are able to make this commitment, like you said, kind of like a real commitment, not just playing at AFC Park and there's no one there, and and actually like kind of have some real teams out there playing. So yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. And this is the USLW league. So is this kind of like their female version of what USL League Two is? It's an amateur level league soccer for essentially for college players.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. It's, essentially the USL2 equivalent. You obviously have the USL, like Gamebird Super League, I believe is officially called. That's the, more professional, probably more comparative to like the USL Championship for the men's. But this is kind of more for players looking to continue to develop their game, especially, college players, to continue to get playing time. That's what the USLW is.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to that. Again, like I said, I used to, I went to some Breakers games, had a good time. So it'd be interesting to see how the women's side of thing works out. There's certainly plenty of people willing to come out and watch the men play. So we'll, hopefully see the same thing continue with the women's side. Um, okay, other new teams. There are actually more new teams on top of Boston Legacy, the Vermont Green women's team, and the other women's team that might come in the fold in the W League. Connecticut United is going to be an MLS Next Pro independent or unaffiliated team, of which there are several already. So they play in MLS Next Pro, but they're not affiliated with an MLS team. They are, very similar to like a USL League One team. They're just a team with professional players. You know, I haven't really seen a lot of hype around this team. Of course, our good friend from Connecticut doesn't really seem to be too excited about this team. But where is this whole thing at? What can we expect, or do we know what to expect from them at this point?
Yeah, I mean, again, maybe similar to Boston Legacy when you look at kind of, we're getting coach, they named their head coach, they're making player announcements. And, I've really been stunned at the players they've been able to bring in. I think the biggest one to me is a player I've kind of, been following, just happened on social media, Anthony Ramos. He's a goalkeeper, kind of came up through an MLS academy, ended up going to, the Liga MX route, and now he's coming back to play for Connecticut United. And you also just look, they've been really able to get some interesting international names. So again, they've really been doing a good job in terms of the on the field product. Off the field, and maybe more specifically, what field they'll be playing, still remains a lot of questions. Obviously, there's this rumor, kind of Bridgeport Stadium. Um, that still seems very much up in the air. From all the people, it seems like in Connecticut, the big question is like, is this team actually going to play? And I mean, you look at the roster they're building, they're going to play somewhere. I guess it's just, are they going to be, playing at some college, or, being able to like have to find some space to rent out? Will this Bridgeport Stadium come about? But I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because I think they've gone out and gotten some really talented players. And I think when you maybe compare it to an MLS academy or MLS second team, maybe just looking to develop players kind of are looked at as that second team, not really a quote unquote priority. You have these independent teams who can really go all in on the teams. And, obviously, it takes a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Connecticut United is at least relatively successful. I don't know if they'll win the entire league, but I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of get off to a good start.
Yeah, well, not having to worry about your players getting, your best players getting called up at inopportune times or being held out or, I mean, we know that, Revs too, it necessarily, the decision making isn't necessarily all just down to the coach playing, who he wants and when he wants and making the subs when, it might look like he's making subs, you assume that he's making subs based on what's going on the field, but some of that for sure is planned. Like, I mean, I remember almost anytime I went to a Revs 2 game, Richie Williams seemed to make like 2 or 3 subs on the 65th minute. So it's like that to me seems this is planned for developmental reasons, not these 3 guys are coming on to get 25 minutes of play because I think these 3 guys are going to impact the game and go on and get us a victory here, right? So if you are in a somewhat developmental type league, but you yourself don't have to contend with these types of decisions, you can just put the best team out there. Yeah, for sure. I think they have an opportunity to be really successful. But so this whole Bridgeport Stadium thing, I guess a quick summary would be that it's currently nowhere, right? There's no approval, no groundbreaking, no. It's just an idea of a stadium.
I mean, essentially, it's never good when the revolution have passed you and maybe the stadium progress. So it just still seems kind of all up in the air, and it seems kind of like a multi. I mean, it's definitely maybe a multi-year investment. So I don't think it will be ready, for a 2026 season, which they're slated to play. So they're gonna have to find somewhere to play. But it'll be interesting to see where they end up. Obviously, maybe they can fit their schedule into Trinity Health Stadium, but it's going to be interesting to see. Just again, a lot of people are just wondering if they'll actually play, and I think once that day comes, it'll just be a matter of where, not if.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing to notice is they seem to have some youth teams as well, and I believe Hartford Athletic also has kind of a youth setup, whereas we haven't really seen that from we haven't seen that from Rhode Island FC for sure. Portland Hearts Spine obviously just getting started. We haven't seen that from them yet. So it's kind of interesting that maybe that there's a bit more of an actual pathway to a first team from the youth club that you play on. Whereas most of the players that play in New England, you're on a club team that has a pathway to, you know, hopefully something better somewhere else, really. So yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And obviously, they got to find somewhere to play. But imagine that if they're signing players, they have a coach. You know, they're going to find a way to play somewhere. So remains to be seen, but that'll be interesting. You think it's good for the for Revs too to have a local rival? You know, that seems to be working out pretty well for Rhode Island and Hartford to have a bit of a, cross state rivalry. I don't know, it's tough to tell, right? But like potentially, if this Connecticut team actually starts to get like a decent following, you could see a couple hundred people at Gillette cheering for Connecticut United when they go up there to play Revs too.
I mean, exactly. As if you're able to get more fans in the building to create some sort of atmosphere for
Something,
Red,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's definitely the aim. And I mean, I remember when Hartford Athletic played the Revs in the US Open Cup, it was amazing to see, a couple hundred Hartford fans, at Gillette Stadium. So it would be great for that to develop. It would maybe be great for just, overall talent in the region for, Hartford Athletic to keep an eye on them, for the Revs to keep an eye on them, all the teams. Um, I think it's just great to hopefully build a rivalry, hopefully make it more than kind of a reserve, second team league to maybe try and bring some culture, history, just something besides, 20 people at Gillette Stadium watching the second team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be a little bit more than just a reserve developmental league. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're going to continue to have these guys go out and play in a 65,000 seat stadium with their parents and Josh Nye. So yeah. All right. One other team that we're aware of. I mean, there could be other teams out there that we don't know about. But one that I became aware of just a couple of weeks ago, York County AFC. So they are going to be an amateur level team that is going to play up in Maine in York County, of course. And they are going to be playing in the leagues for clubs, which is, I don't
It
know
is a
that I
league. It is a
I
league, and
it
there's
is a
clubs.
league, and there's clubs in it. I mean, there you go. Why kill yourself trying to come up with a catchy name when you can just say, well, why don't we just call it what it is? It's a league for clubs to play in. At least they didn't call it for the league for clubs to play soccer, right? Like, don't want to be too on the nose about it. But anyway, name of the league aside, this is going to be a similar level, on the pyramid or whatever you want to call it, to USL League Two, right? Amateur summer league team, mostly made up of college players. And so I actually don't know. I really don't know anything much beyond that. But what do you think about the possibility here of a team up in Maine, maybe seeing clearly there are people in Maine that will come out for soccer, and maybe trying to bring a little bit more of that up there.
Yeah, I think it's really great, and I think also too, you kind of look at the UPSL. You have, I believe, there's a team coming to Portland itself. For the UPSL or kind of one of a similar standing league, and I know for a fact, Vermont Clover is also coming to UPSL. That's, again, another team. I believe they'll be based in Burlington. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Actually, we'll have a story. I talked with kind of the founder of their team. So should have that on the Blazing Musket coming relatively soon. But I think really it's just all about providing opportunities for players who might not fall into that like high elite 1% category. When you look at a Vermont Green roster, that's some of the best college players in the entire nation. When you look at, Portland Hearts of Pine, those are professional players. I think when you get these teams, it allows, maybe players filling that gap between the 1% and, players who just are kind of, on the wayside or, maybe D3 route. Maybe you're looking at some of the lower D1, some D2 players. And I think really it's just great. It again talks to and speaks to the growth of the game, the fact that we're able to have such infrastructure. You think of all across the world, there's these academies, there's kind of lower division clubs. I mean, in Brazil, there's like 8 divisions of soccer and, across the world, same. So I think it's just great to have this infrastructure to allow for players to continue to develop, and you never know what can happen. I mean, you always point to Matt Turner. He kind of came out of nowhere from Fairfield, and he became a national team starter and, a starter for the Revs, and played over in Europe. So I think giving players opportunities to continue to grow, continue to develop, no matter if they're the top 1% or maybe a little bit lower than that. That's the most important thing. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of play out, how many fans they're able to attract and just kind of the level of soccer. But I think the fact that we're seeing these clubs kind of sprout up can only be looked at as a positive thing and just kind of a testament to the growth of the game in New England.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is too is there for sure are I think a lot of people like to kind of maybe knock on college soccer a little bit and say, well, if you're not if you're not in an MLS academy or a USL team's academy, by the time you're 18, it's like well, you might as well just put your cleats away and stop playing. I mean, it's kind of a little ridiculous. The only type of people I really hear say that, honestly, it's getting kind of older, are the promotion and relegation, free market libertarians that can't accept the fact that there's another way to develop soccer in a country without having promotion and relegation. Uh, so it's been nice to see these types of teams expand because for sure there are players that get missed by. I mean, you look at just if you look at New England, right? New England has the MLS one MLS team, right? They have the New England Revolution. There's no way that they're aware of every single talented soccer player in New England. I mean, it would just be impossible. You'd have to have a network of 30 scouts going out there, every Saturday and every Sunday. There's just no way, right? So opening up these opportunities for guys that don't get spotted early on, and even the Revs like Esmir. Esmir's not even from New England, right? Esmir came from Milwaukee, so you've got a team that okay, they're in New England and they provide a great opportunity for the players that can get onto their academy teams because it doesn't cost them anything and it's a high level experience. But they only have 18 to 20 kids at each age group, and there's no way they can catch everybody. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. One of the benefits of MLS taking a 2-month break, which we'll get to. Well, they'll be taking a break every summer now, but they're taking a 2-month break for the World Cup. Is my wife and I were just talking about this. There were so many times where we would see a game that maybe we wanted to go to, a lower league game that was at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on a Saturday. It's like, oh yeah, well, that'd be great to go to, but we can't, right? The Revs are playing, whether they're home or away. We don't want to miss the Revs game. I mean, even in 2025, we don't want to miss the game, right? But now a 2-month break. Say, hey, why not? Why not go out on a Saturday? Maybe you can catch 2 games in one day. You could go to a York County game, and then if you can get a ticket, you might be able to go to the Port in the Hearts of Pine game later on that night. So I do really find that to be a good development. And as top level soccer just becomes more and more disgustingly about nothing but money, these clubs, to me anyway, seem a lot more appealing now than they did 2-3 years ago. The top level game it's just kind of getting sick of it to be perfectly honest. I mean, like you know Tottenham, right? Tottenham again already. Coach has been there for 6 months, and what's everyone wants to talk? Oh, we got to fire this guy. We get rid of everybody. It's just such a
Ah,
bore.
pray for Wilfred Nancy Thomas, that poor guy.
I know. I mean, that it is honestly that is it's pretty sad. I do. I mean, because again, it's just this another stick that these Euro snobs that think that promotion relegation and being Eurocentric is the way to go. This is another stick that they can go and whack MLS with. Oh, look at their supposed best coach got fired. It's like, yeah, because he walked into a shit show, right? Like, so I don't know. I felt kind of I do feel bad for him at the same time. I think you have to know the way that he does things is complicated. It takes time. Coming into the middle of a season in which Celtic is having a bad year, which is totally like it's a thing that like can't be allowed to happen. It's a 2-team league, right? And I think actually at one point they might have been behind two. They were third in a 2-team league.
Yeah, Hearts is leading the Scottish Premiership right now, and I think probably Rangers is in the second.
Yeah, I mean you can't walk into that situation and then say, "Hey, look, I need like 6 or 7 weeks for these guys to kind of like get with the program." It's like, well, we don't have 6 weeks. I mean, Scotland, they have like a cup final like every month, right? And if you lose 2 games, well, hey, the season's over. So that's just that's
It's
good.
as Matt Turner said, support your local club. I know a lot of people don't like MLS for the corporateness and all that it is, the single entityness. Go support, these smaller clubs. They definitely, very much value and very much need it. So, whether it's, USL or, these kind of, smaller UPSLs, Leafer clubs, what have you, go support these clubs. And I mean, even if you like MLS, go support these clubs because you don't have to be tribalistic in it all too. So again, just really great to see. And I just want to say, I think Celtic, forced me to be a Rangers fan because now everybody's going to trash MLS.
Sam taking the sides of is
Honestly, I take it back. I'd be a Dundee United fan just because of Ian Harps.
the United.
Yeah,
I am not going to pick sides. You're picking a lot of sides when you pick Rangers or Celtic. You're picking
very
countries,
valid, very
religion.
valid.
Yeah. We'll just still steer clear of that rivalry. But yeah, look, I mean, I think I think I saw 30 games in person last year. And the best two, or one of the best two, was the Portland Arts Pine game. I mean, it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal time. Yeah, so highly recommend. Again, if you somehow have lived in New England and are a soccer fan that listens to this podcast and didn't get yourself out to, some of these lower league games in 2025, really, try and find a way to get out to some of these games. It is well worth the time. Now, all right, now enough with all that. We're gonna get to the big time, Sam. We have to get to the biggest, most influential team in New England, the one that's been here the longest, the
Vermont
the
Green.
New England Revolution, of course. The New England Revolution. They are two parts. One, they have a new coach, which is phenomenal, and is as I'm excited for the season to start, and I haven't said that since 2022, maybe. It's been a while. It's been
A
a
breath
while
of
since
fresh
it's been.
air. A breath of fresh air, Thomas. I mean,
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think? I know some people have tried to kind of knock Mitrovic here and say that he's been coaching kids and some of that. But what do you think? What can we expect? Is this guy going to come in and be a miracle worker like some of the new coaches that came into the league last year, or do we need to be a little bit more patient?
yeah, I mean, I would love for him to be a miracle worker, but I think maybe don't set the bar, set the expectations there. But really excited to see what he's able to kind of do with this team. Just again, a fresh look. He's not an MLS retread. He's someone who's kind of worked in the youth game. Obviously, when you're working with these top level players, it's not like you're coaching, children per se. So really excited to see what he's able to do. Seems like he wants to play some, interesting soccer. And I think people, as much as results definitely matter. I mean, if your team wins, you don't really care necessarily how some of the soccer is played. I think people can kind of get bought into the fact that he's able to develop young talent. And you've clearly seen that that's going to be kind of a prominent thing with the players. They've gone out and got you look at Brooklyn Reigns, young, someone who's worked with Mitrovic, who's played with Peyton Miller. You look at Ethan Kohler, another kind of, young player. There's clearly, obviously he's coached, the youth national team setup. He's calling on some of his experiences there. And I think when you maybe look at some of past acquisitions, I mean, I love Omar Gonzalez, but you look at Omar Gonzalez, Josie Altidore, you look at some of the guys brought in their Caleb Porter. Again, love Jonathan Mensah, but Jonathan Mensah, Maxi Rudy's, Luis Diaz. Maybe not Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz is actually not that old. But you look at these guys,
Surprisingly, yeah.
they're veterans. I think you're starting to see some young players who can be developed, sold off to Europe, and I really just think it's a breath of fresh air. I mean, after the whole Caleb Porter experience, think it would be hard for the Revs to uh, go wrong with the hire. When I was hearing Josh Wolf and Peter Vermees, maybe I was a little skeptical.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
they announced Marko Mitrovic, I was really excited. Just again, a fresh look and someone who can give a new, maybe direction for the squad.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway after watching, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours of the under 23s and under 20 teams that he coached. I came away a lot more impressed and a lot more excited than I did after watching a sampling of games from Caleb Porter's last season with the Columbus Crew. Right. So on that basis alone, going into this, I feel a lot better than I did going into the Caleb Porter era. I really didn't think that he would be very successful, and I was proven right. So hopefully, I'm right this time around again, and the Revs get themselves at least get back in the playoffs. Like, please, it's not
That has to be the goal.
it's not the biggest mountain to climb, and they should certainly be able to climb it in 2026. And like you said, I mean, look, I do, especially now with all the options to go and watch soccer in person. I do think there is an obligation, and not a lot of coaches think this way. I mean, Marcelo Bielsa is one. There's a couple other ones out there. There should be an obligation to entertain, because if you're not being entertained by the Revs again, to reference the Portland Hearts of Pine, Bobby Murphy's playing style it's fun, it's fast, right? A lot of up back throughs. They get the ball and they get going. They press high. Like, I mean, is it the most complicated version of soccer? No, but it is absolutely in no way boring. I mean, it is exciting to watch. Things either happen or don't happen very quickly. So, when you have that on offer, Hartford plays in a pretty good style as well. Again, fast paced, high energy, making things happen. The game is being played close to both goals. If you're not getting that from the Revs, that if you're not being entertained, there's plenty of other places to go and try and get entertainment. So hopefully it is. Hopefully it is a more engaging style of play than whatever it is that we had to watch for the previous 2 years. For sure. Um, what do you think about not just 2026, but 2026 and 2027 for the Revs and MLS as a whole? So this year, I mean, look, there's no choice. The World Cup's coming. They have to start while the World Cup is being played. Right? There's really no two ways about it. I believe it's actually a rule that FIFA has that your top domestic league will not interfere with the World Cup, and so they have no choice, no problem. But after this year, they have made a choice, right, to do this schedule switch, the fall into the spring, a 2-month break in the winter, and then there essentially won't be regular season soccer in New England in June and July. Well, anymore, really. So how do you feel about all this? Is this maybe not a big risk for MLS, but it certainly seems like it's a big risk for the Revolution?
I would even dare to say it is a big risk for MLS. Obviously, you do have some of these cooler climates, but I think in general, just kind of reshaping, reimagining, having your audience have to reimagine, what a season looks like. It
Yeah.
definitely is
Yep.
risky. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, they are buying in on the fact that they will now be aligned with transfer windows. You won't have a situation like Harvey Elliott, with Liverpool, who can potentially get, loaned over here. And, he would be for the start of the season. I believe, if he was loaned, he would be here for kind of, halfway through, the new kind of calendar. You're going to lose maybe the flexibility to bring in some of these top talents, but you're going to be able to be aligned. And, that's crucial for MLS. It seems to really aspire to be looked at as one of those top leagues. I don't think it aspires to be a top five league per se, but it kind of wants to be right outside of that. And so you're risking, the colder climates, again, they'll point to the 92% stat, but I don't know if I necessarily buy that stat. I think the Revolution are going to be playing in some cold weather games. I would imagine they would be similar kind of attendances to, that Pumas game, maybe the RSL game too. That was, you know, crazy snow. So I think it's definitely a big risk. But, if you're able to reap the rewards of the transfers, if you're able to send a Peyton Miller, if you're able to send a Brooklyn Reigns, and you don't have to worry about, loan backs or what have you, or losing your player like Minnesota did with Tanya Aluse, as you're about to make a playoff run. That's what MLS is buying in on. It's kind of looking to kind of be more well regarded. I would say. I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a shock to the system trying to adjust, whether it's planning coverage or just even myself, like imagining being there in late November or February, early February. It's gonna be a little bit of a shock to the system. And you can't forget, Tom, the sprint season, baby. I cannot wait for the sprint season
Yeah, yeah.
because the Revs are
I
going to
know,
win the
I
MLS
know.
Cup, and everyone's going to say it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much set up that way, right? That someone that's never won MLS Cup before is gonna win that shortened season, get some sort of trophy and try and say, "Hey, we won the whole thing," even though it was only, 40% of a regular season or whatever it is. Yeah, that's gonna be a little tricky to navigate, but I think that, it's just like you just said, the Economist, which, like, I don't know how much you can trust the I don't even know how much the Economist knows about economy, to be honest. Their answer to everything is austerity. But, they've come out and said that soccer is the third most popular sport in the country now. And it's been a long, painful road to get to that point, right? And if that really is the case, and look, my wife is she's a principal of an elementary school, so they do, like, I know this is anecdotal, but like they do like sports, like Team Jerseys Day, right? And she's like, you would not believe it's basically Patriots jerseys first, soccer jerseys of every kind that you can think of second, all other sports below that. So if you look at it that way, right? Like younger kids don't have this. Well, anyone under the age of 30 doesn't live in a world in which the United States hasn't had a top level, domestic soccer league. And even if you're any younger than 7 or 8 years old, you're not gonna you're gonna be living in a world where if you live in New England, there's like 4, 5 professional soccer teams. There's professional soccer teams like all over the place. So you don't have this lingering memory of the '90s when there was no, you know what I mean? So like they've taken all this time. They've built a league that in the early 2000s was teetering on disappearing, on bank. I think they contracted down to 10 teams or 8 teams for one season. I mean, they were really on the brink of not existing not that long after being established. Right. Once again, following off from the NASL in the 70s and 80s. But now it's a 30-team league that Opta says is the 10th or 11th best league in the world. Like, that's a again, people just love to take MLS down for any reason that they can think of. It's kind of like an easy critique or whatever, right? Like just trying to get a hot take on Twitter, whatever value that has left in 2026. But like that is a huge accomplishment what they've done to get to this point, and now they're going to try and sell American sports fans on a 2-month break in the middle of the season, which is not a thing and as far as I'm aware of, any league. No one does this, right? So I just, to me, that's a big, big mental hurdle because you're giving fans that are not just soccer fans, of which most soccer fans I know are fans of something else. You're giving them a 2-month opportunity to kind of forget about MLS soccer and get caught up in something else.
Yeah, and MLS also seems to be buying in. It's kind of getting away from competing with kind of college football, having championship games during kind of peak NFL season. But now you're going to have to compete with NBA, NHL kind of at their peak. You'll still be competing against the NFL, in February. And I think, even kind of going into the winter, you're still going to be competing against college football, college basketball. So it's going to be really interesting to see just how they're able to handle that shift. And I mean, like you were saying, MLS was once at a point where there was concerns if it was going to last. I don't think we're there, but I think when you make a change like this, it's kind of the question of if you're going to ever be able to develop into something more than what you currently are, or if you're just going to maybe always be kind of that second fiddle to basketball, football, So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Like you said, the breaks really just abnormal for American sports. I mean, when it comes to like the hockey Olympic break, when they let the NHL players play, I think it's like a month or, maybe even less. And I remember people just always freak out about it. So I can
Well, it
only
feels like an
imagine.
eternity, right?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, I can only imagine, what that will be like for kind of soccer fans, what it'll be like for even teams just looking to maybe stay fit, stay match ready. When you look at the Bundesliga, it's kind of the closest comparison, but I don't believe it's this long of a break that they take.
Well, it's like
So
I think it's like a month at this point,
yeah, a month. So it's gonna be
around the
interesting to see.
holidays, you know? Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be
yeah.
interesting to see how it goes. I think there is the potential for it to kind of play out, I would say probably more financially. I think essentially, the teams are going to be able to reap the rewards of the transfer market while maybe losing out on that in-person product. I would imagine a lot more people are going to be watching at home, watching Apple TV instead of maybe going to Gillette Stadium or, the future Everett Stadium when it's about 20 or 30 degrees out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right there. The big risk is that and other leagues across the world have experienced this type of issue, for different reasons. I mean, like Serie A, famously saw their attendance just kind of like just drop off the cliff with the advent of cable TV and the stadiums not being super safe because of the ultras. But again, it got to that kind of like almost like a farce, right? It's like, well, there's two curves screaming at each other, and no one's in between because everyone. Sam, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Slight technical difficulty. I'll see if I can clean that up. Anyway, I I just think it's a huge, huge risk where I mean 30 teams in a sustainable league is again, it's quite an accomplishment. And it didn't come easily, right? It took them a long time to get to this point. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I don't think that anyone is trying to like conclusively say like, oh yeah, this is gonna work out. There's no way that anyone could possibly know that. Uh, but yeah, but we'll see. Again, a little preview of it though in 2026, right? We'll get a season. It's going to stop for a while with the World Cup, which I mean is a pretty good distraction as far as distractions go. And then the season will finish off in the fall as it typically does. All right, look, we're good 45 minutes into this. We haven't even really touched on the most of the teams that have existed previously and will exist again in 2026 that have been really successful, right? So we have, Hartford Athletic, Rhode Island FC, Portland Hearts of Pine, and Vermont Green. They're all back in 2026 as well. So I mean, what of those four teams, which of the four are you most excited to follow in 2026 and see how they do?
I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say Vermont Green. I'm not biased in my coverage, but I'll be biased in saying that, I'm always interested to see how they play. I mean, you look at the MLS Super Draft recently, they had about, I think, 5 or 6 players drafted. It was the most, they've had in their, early club history. So getting to see how they kind of respond to winning a championship, how they kind of handle that quote unquote pressure, if you will. Even kind of following along with, the women's side, it's going to be interesting. Chris Taylor sounds like he'll be back. Adam Pfeiffer, sporting director. Sounds like, a big recent announcement. Leaders reported by Jack Main up there in Vermont that Nick Herzeg is staying with UVM and will also be staying with Vermont Green. He'll be playing in the US Open Cup roster and also too playing in the summer. So that's one of the best goalkeepers in the region and probably the game, drafted 16th overall by FC Dallas. I will not lie. I maybe seen that he's been hyped and maybe been a little critical of him, but I think when it comes down to it, you look at the end of that Vermont Green season last year, played a crucial role and made some incredible saves. So that's going to be a big piece if you're able to get maybe some guys like Amoni Thomas and maybe David Ajagbays. It'll be interesting to see, but you're probably going to be losing some players, maybe Musa Ndai, Zach Zenge. So really going to be interesting to see kind of how they rebuild that roster. And I mean, maybe looking at some of the professional, USL clubs. I mean, there's really a lot to be interested all three. I think when you look at Hartford Athletic, again, they were able to do so well in the USL Jägermeister Cup. Now it's a question of, what will they be able to do? They haven't announced their roster moves yet, and I imagine that's to do with the kind of labor issues going on right now.
Yeah,
But
sure.
when you look at Rhode Island FC, bringing back some, really key players, Lee Deek was coming back, Noah Fusion. Key player not coming back is Maxi Rodriguez. He was traded to Detroit City. This seemed like, you know,
It it
didn't
was?
didn't fit well there.
When did that happen?
Oh, that happened a while ago, Thomas. That happened before the year. But, yes, so Maxi
I
Rodriguez.
switch off pretty hard, Sam.
Oh, that's okay. You deserve it, Thomas. We all deserve a little break. I've even, taken a mini writing break as well. But, I mean, yeah, so, seeing Maxi Rodriguez go, that is a big kind of change, but it just seemed like he didn't fit well there.
Yeah,
Rhode Island's been a team that's made the Eastern Conference Finals its first 2 years. I think if they're able to not struggle as much during the kind of earlier parts of the season, they could really kind of make a name for themselves and really kind of make a stronger push and potentially even go for a championship. Seems like guys like Connor Smith and Brendan Burke are there for the long term. So you're really getting to see kind of their vision of what they want a club to look like. And Portland Hearts of Pine, again, a team that was so close to making it to the final, something that's relatively unheard of, the amount of players they've been able to bring back. You have Nathan Messer, Michelle Poon-Angeron, Hunter Morse. You had so many players. I'm definitely going to miss some. The fact you just keep.
Is Masasashi,
Yes, I Ibuata,
Wa
he signed a
Wada, yeah,
mid-year.
yeah, yeah,
Steph
yeah,
reported how he kind of mid-year, they're like, "Yeah, we gotta rework your contract to make sure you come back." But, so lots of high-performing players coming back, which is extremely rare in USL League One to kind of maintain that core of the roster and, bringing in some, high talented players. People they brought in, one of the leading goal scorers, who play for the Richmond Kickers. I believe he's a striker. They brought in
yeah, yeah.
Jordan Scarlett from, I believe, FC Naples, and also another, I think, FC Naples player. But they're really bringing in some kind of heavy hitters, and a lot of people and a lot of players are talking about the atmosphere and just overall kind of the momentum that Portland's been able to bring. I think when you kind of look at that, they have to be considered, a contender. Definitely in the Eastern Conference, and I would probably say in USL League One as a whole. And also, you have the US Open Cup. A lot of people are wondering, will we see Portland Hearts of Pine go up against Vermont Green? Will we maybe see them go up against more of the amateur clubs? Maybe see Vermont go up against, some MLS Next Pro side. But it's going to be great to kind of see these teams go to battle against one another, continue to foster those rivalries. And I mean, I can't wait for El Clamico, Hartford Athletic and Rhode Island FC. If Anthony Saha, seems like he's still on the roster for Hartford Athletic. There were rumors, of a potential move to New York Red Bulls, but if Anthony Saha is still there, that is going to be get your popcorn ready. That's going to be a great atmosphere.
Yeah, one thing that really kinda stands out to me is the consistency of the coaching. So, Bobby Murphy, obviously he's gonna be back for year 2. I mean, I think that was kind of a foregone conclusion, but still, you know, he's gonna be back for his 2nd year. Connell Smith is gonna be back for year 3. Brendan Burke, I mean, this is unprecedented territory now for Hartford. He's gonna be back for his 3rd year as well. So again, we kinda contrast that to, some of the other top level leagues, across the world where, you have a bad 5 or 6 weeks and you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to get fired. I do think it's great to see these guys able to come back for their 2nd year or for their 3rd year. And like you said, able to bring back players that have worked out, bring in some new players, but really like their style, their way of doing things, really can cement themselves. If you look at like the success of Pittsburgh Riverhounds with their coach before he got himself in a little bit of trouble there for whatever it is that he did. But they had a 7 or 8 year run where they were consistent, right? Consistently a strong team, consistently in the playoffs. Like you said, with the amount of roster turnover that you can have year in and year out, in these leagues, it's really impressive to be able to do that, to be able to make the playoffs, 4, 5, 6 years in a row. It's not easy. So I think that is honestly, I think it's great. That these guys have been able to. Brendan Burke was on, maybe on a little bit of thin ice in the middle of last season. Obviously, the club stuck with him, and that worked out really well. I know that some people, were not happy with Conno Smith at different parts of last season. They straighten, I mean, if you've got a coach that seems to get the whole thing straightened out come playoff time, that's a good coach to keep around. I mean, that's when it, that's when it really matters, and when things are really decisive. Portland Hearts of Pine just seem to get better and better as the year went on, as well. So I think it's going to be great to see the three of them all come back for another year. Obviously, tremendous amount of consistency with with Vermont Green. And hey, maybe the Revs can get there as well. This maybe if Mitrovic is able to come in and have success, bring in some younger players, maybe we could see the same thing. But I think that the most exciting thing is, like you said, as long as the U.S. Open Cup is here, as long as everyone is still participating in it, right? You get this opportunity to get one or two, these really fun matchups between teams in New England that that otherwise wouldn't play each other.
Exactly, and I mean, getting to see Hartford Athletic, unfortunately or fortunately if you're a Portland fan, get cup set by Portland Hearts of Pine. I mean, the atmosphere that was, with Vermont Green was in the Open Cup of 2024 was amazing. I talked to Nathan Messer for his story. He said if Vermont and Portland played, it would be the best atmosphere in all of American soccer, including MLS. I mean, it would be amazing to see, these teams continue to kind of get the opportunity to go up against one another and build those rivalries. And, luckily, the Revs are in it. So hopefully, whether it's a Rhode Island FC, Hartford Athletic, or, maybe a lower team is able to kind of go on a run. Hopefully we get the Revs going up against one of these New England teams as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be great fun, and I know the odds are pretty slim, but if you could get the Revs to have to go and play, away to one of these teams, I think that'd be phenomenal. The Revs having to go up to Portland, uh, you know, that would be something for sure. No one would be able to get tickets, but it would be that would be amazing. Okay, look, last thing we got to touch on here is a bit of a big one. The 2026 World Cup. Assuming right, assuming that the geopolitical situation remains in the relatively unstable state that it's in and doesn't become even more unstable, there will be a World Cup featuring games in three different countries, assuming that, of course, we don't kidnap the ruler of Mexico, invade Canada on our way to Greenland, and decide to take over all of South America. But assuming that all these things don't happen, and they very well could in the next 6 months, given how things have gone in the first 6 days of this year, uh, the World Cup is finally going to be here. It's going to be in Gillette Stadium. What are we actually going to get here in New England? Who is coming here? Who's playing here? And for those of us that are able to, you know, come up with the money to afford tickets or get lucky. And I just got an alert on my phone. Apparently, Verizon has an opportunity for me to get tickets if I don't spend any of the money that I'm going to make between now and June. I might be able to afford a ticket. But what are we getting here in New England as far as the World Cup is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very disappointed. I thought Brazil was going to come here. Their group does play here, but Brazil does not play here. So I'm still bitter at FIFA for that. But, when you look at some of the matchups, I think the best matchup has to be France versus Norway. That's going to be, obviously Erling Haaland versus Kylian Mbappe, and kind of the rest of the French squad. It would be, I'd probably say, a tough game for Norway to be victorious, but they have kind of developed as a nation and develop some kind of top players outside of just Erling Haaland. So that's really the marquee match. You're also getting England will be playing at Gillette Stadium, and I think maybe more for the local crowd. The fact that Haiti will be playing will be amazing. Again, that's all dependent on locals being able to afford tickets and the Haitian people dealing with a stupid traffic ban because we have an amazing president, the FIFA Peace Prize winning president, the most peaceful guy in all of the world, Thomas.
No, I
Just
love
because
peace. Peace is it's tremendous. We have to have
the
it.
most peaceful guy ever. There's never been a more peaceful guy. But yeah, so having to deal with all that, but You're going to get some great games at Gillette Stadium. I believe there's a round of 32 game on the winner of Germany's group, which will most likely be Germany. So will be coming to Gillette Stadium. So lots of great games. Again, you have to deal with insane prices. If you're going to fan events, maybe you have to somehow pay to get into those, which
Oh, what is
sorely
it? You gonna
not.
pay to go to the fan events now?
Boston has not come out with anything, so I'll give them some grace. But like New York, New Jersey, I think you're paying $15, which is absurd to go to a park to watch a soccer game. Oh,
Uh,
just insanely dumb. I mean, the fact that FIFA is now just all of a sudden being like, oh yeah, we have to afford to give out all this money to the organizations and governing bodies when
yeah, yeah,
some
that's what
reason
it's
for
all.
all
That's
these
that.
years you did not have to worry. And, even in Qatar, you could charge $60 a ticket for get-in price, but, there's only, like, one little tiny section of $60 tickets available, and that's because everybody got mad at you because of how insane prices were. I mean, I'm lucky enough I'm in the position where, Lord willing, the Blazing Musket gets credentialed, and I'm able to attend the game covering it. That's the only way I'd be able to afford a game. If not, I'd be chilling in a parking lot or going to one of these fan events. So, if you're able to go to these games, enjoy it. I think maybe we'll see prices kind of fluctuate in terms of once the schedule's ironed out, and maybe when you get closer to it. But just everything around this World Cup has been absolutely insane. I mean, there was lots of uproar, rightly so, with Qatar getting a World Cup. There's uproar with Saudi Arabia getting a World Cup. Um, Probably should be, and I think there probably is a lot of uproar about the United States getting a World Cup with everything that is going on in our country. So hopefully it all works out. Hopefully we don't try and invade Greenland for no reason. But I don't know, Tom. It's just like every day something happens, and you're like, this can't be real life.
Have to have it. Have to have Greenland. So
Like, no offense to Greenland, like, not worth it at all. Like, if we're starting wars, we can get much better bang for buck.
oh, so are you are you advocating for imperialism now, Sam? Yes.
I'm not advocating for imperialism. I'm just saying that Greenland
Hey,
deserves
let's not waste our
anything.
time, taking some little tin pot little island with 40,000 people on it. We got to set our sights on. But I mean, who knows? Honestly, it's like I woke up on what was it Saturday? I woke up on Saturday morning. And I just looked at my phone. It's just like, oh my god, like come on, like really, this is what we're doing now. Like, I had plans on Saturday. Not, I mean, it was really just sim racing, but I had to cut it. My sim racing time got cut in half because I couldn't shut off CNN and MS Now for 4 hours. I can't believe like the world that we live in. But we do live in it, Sam, and we will continue to live in it as best as we can. And if you are, look, we'll do the best we can to stick to soccer. It's getting awfully hard these days. But for now, the World Cup is still coming to the United States. There will be 48 teams participating. If they're all still going to be independent countries, that we don't have any control over that. But we'll certainly let you know. If the Colombians come here as Colombians or as South America, Southern United States Colombians. I mean, who knows? I mean, literally anything could happen between now and the World Cup. But as far as we know, it will be here. As far as you know, all the teams that we talked about, all the leagues. I mean, it is really it's insane to think of how much like good high level soccer is going to be on offer just in New England. Starting in late February and going until whenever the Revs, Portland, Rhode Island, and Hartford seasons come to an end. So yeah, I mean, I am excited. It's at least gives us something to kind of pay attention to that isn't everything else. So in that way, it's nice. But yeah, Sam. So I mean, are you feel a little bit more prepared now for 2026 now that we've again just looking at everything that we have coming up. For sure, it's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, definitely maybe more prepared. Also, just maybe more aware of just how much soccer. Can't wait to be going all throughout New England covering the game. But I mean, if you're a soccer fan, this is probably a once in a lifetime occurrence just to have this much soccer. going on, particularly probably in the summer. So, I mean, get on board because it is going to be an absolutely insane 2026.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier on the show, the Blazing Musket will be covering, for sure everything that's going on in New England. Will be on top of the World Cup. We'll be, keeping close eyes on the men's and women's teams journeys through 2026. And the show will be here. We're really excited about our second year. Hopefully, you all are excited to join us for another go around the calendar as well. We'll of course continue on with our monthly roundtable with all the boys from the various podcasts on the Revolution podcast, the Blazing Musket Podcast Network. So really looking forward to that. We are of course working on having guests on. We had some fantastic guests through all of 2025. Hoping to be able to do the same thing in 2026. Like I mentioned earlier, we have somebody from the York County AFC organization. They're going to come on and tell us all about what's going on up there. So we really appreciate all the support in 2025. We look forward to having you joining us throughout 2026 for what is certainly going to be a great year of soccer here in New England. So if you haven't liked and subscribed to the show already, please do. Please leave us a review. Please continue to catch our show wherever you get your podcast from. And of course, we are also putting the shows on YouTube. So if you want to see what Sam's new high quality camera looks like, be sure to check us out on YouTube. We also kind of clip this show up into shorter segments as well. Do some shorts or whatever it is that they're called on YouTube. So if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, please do so over there. But please continue to continue to enjoy this show, and we continue to enjoy providing it for you.